All dharmas are empty of all dharmas, are, then, not all dharmas included in emptiness? Subhuti. So it is, O Lord. The Lord. By this method also you should know that, when he has stood in perfect wisdom, the Bodhisattva performs this kind of skill in means. The virtuous acts which consist in approaching, tending, the Buddhas. Subhuti. How does the Bodhisattva, who courses in perfect wisdom and has stood in the emptiness of all dharmas, conjure up the perfection of superknowledges, which enables him to travel in the East, to countless world systems, to honor the Buddhas and Lords who stand, hold, and maintain themselves in those world systems, and demonstrate the Dharma there, to hear the Dharma from them, and to plant wholesome roots in the presence of those Buddhas and Lords? The Lord. Here, Subhuti, the Bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom sees all the countless world systems in the East, as empty. And the Buddhas and Lords who are in them are empty of own being, and they can be described only by way of names and conventional expressions which rely on concepts. All these concepts, however, are empty of own being. If those world systems were not empty of own being, as well as those Buddhas and Lords and the habitual conceptions, then that emptiness would be only a limited one. But because emptiness is not limited, therefore all dharmas are empty of all dharmas. In consequence, the Bodhisattva who through his skill in means courses in the perfection of wisdom consummates the perfection of the superknowledges. Having stood in the superknowledges, he consummates the heavenly eye, the heavenly ear, the magical powers, the cognition of others' thoughts and the knowledge of the decease and rebirth of beings. And it is not without the superknowledges that a Bodhisattva can know the supreme enlightenment. Since therefore the enlightenment of a Bodhisattva and the perfection of the superknowledges are mutually included within each other, one should strive to attain enlightenment through just those superknowledges. In the process of doing so, the Bodhisattva with his heavenly eye sees for himself those wholesome dharmas, and he enjoins them also on others. But he does not settle down in these wholesome dharmas. And why? Because they are all empty in their own being. But on account of emptiness one cannot settle down anywhere, or relish that in which one has settled down. For emptiness cannot be relished. Therefore the Bodhisattva, who courses in perfect wisdom, consummates the heavenly eye which enables him to see all dharmas as empty. Thereupon the Bodhisattva, aware of the true dharmic situation, voluntarily performs those deeds which enable him to demonstrate dharma to beings, but without apprehending a being or the concept of a being. It is thus by way of basing himself on nothing at all that the Bodhisattva conjures up the perfection of the superknowledges, and brings about all the dharmas which should be achieved through these superknowledges. And here the Bodhisattva, with his heavenly eye, purified, and surpassing that of men, sees the world systems in all the directions, and with the help of his wonder-working powers he travels there and works the will of beings, whether by giving, or morality, to. By the buddhadharmas he does the work of those beings. And to beings who are stingy, he demonstrates dharma as follows. Do give gifts. For poverty is a painful thing. One is unable, when poor, to accomplish one's own welfare, much less that of others. In consequence you yourselves will suffer, and you will also make others suffer. May it not be that overpowered by poverty you will be unable to free from the places of woe those who feed on each other's flesh. And to those who are immoral he demonstrates the dharma as follows. Immorality, O you people, leads to suffering. For through immorality one cannot accomplish one's own welfare, how much less that of others. The immoral will find their punishment in the hells, or in the world of animals, or in the world of yama. Once you have been hurled into the three states of woe, you will be unable to accomplish your own welfare, how much less that of others. Therefore may you not give an opportunity to even one single thought of immorality, so that later on you may have no reason to repent. And to those beings who feel ill will for one another he demonstrates dharma as follows. May you not feel ill will towards one another. For to those that have angry thoughts not one single wholesome dharma can manifest itself. It is therefore quite certain that you who are angry towards one another will be reborn in the hells, or the world of animals, or the world of yama. May you not feel even one angry thought, how much less should you give an opportunity to other unwholesome thoughts. He encourages the indolent to vigor, 2. He encourages those who have distracted thoughts to the practice of trance, and the stupid to wisdom. And those who course in greed he encourages to meditate on the unlovely. Those who course in hate to the practice of friendliness, and those who course in delusion to meditate on conditioned co-production. Those who have set out on the wrong path he encourages to the right path, whether it be that of the disciples, or the Pratyeka Buddhas. And he demonstrates dharma to them as follows. Those dharmas in which you have settled down, they are empty in their own being. One cannot possibly settle down in dharmas which are empty of own being. For emptiness is something in which one cannot settle down. It is thus that the Bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom and who has stood in the superknowledges works the will of beings. No Bodhisattva can demonstrate dharma to beings without having first stood in the superknowledges. And it is quite impossible that those who have strayed onto a wrong path can make others enter the true path. Just as a bird without wings cannot soar into space, just so the Bodhisattva cannot demonstrate dharma without resorting to the superknowledges. Therefore, then, a Bodhisattva who courses in perfect wisdom should consummate the superknowledges. When he done so, he makes those beings happy whose will he desires to work. With his heavenly eye he will see countless world systems, and also the beings who are reborn in them. With the help of his wonder-working powers he travels to them. Wisely knows their thought with his own thought, and in his wisdom he demonstrates the dharma just as it is, be it a sermon on giving, 2. A sermon on release. With his heavenly ear element he hears both kinds of sound, heavenly and human. He hears the dharmas which the Buddhas and Lords demonstrate in countless world systems. Learns them as they are, and demonstrates them without introducing any falsehood into them, whether they be a sermon on giving, 2. A sermon on release. His knowledge of others' mental makeup becomes quite pure. Through it he wisely knows the hearts of beings, and demonstrates to them dharma as it is, whether it be a sermon on giving, 2. A sermon on release. He remembers his own former rebirths and those of others. As a result he cognizes that these were the names of the Tathagatas of the past, who had their own communities of disciples. And to those beings who will be resolved on the recollection of their past lives he will demonstrate dharma just as it is, whether it be a sermon on giving, or a sermon on release. With his wonder-working powers he travels to many world systems. Honors the Buddhas and Lords that are in them, and through his superknowledge demonstrates dharma to beings, whether it be a sermon on giving, or a sermon on release. With his cognition of the extinction of the outflows, well understood, he demonstrates dharma to beings, whether it be a sermon on giving, or a sermon on release. It is thus that the Bodhisattva, who courses in perfect wisdom, should consummate the superknowledges. When he has become quite familiar with these superknowledges, he takes upon himself any body that he wishes to take upon himself, though thereby he does not become one who is at ease or ill, who is glad or sad, or who feels affection or aversion. Just as person who is a magical creation of the Tathagata does all the work demanded of him, and yet is not stained by ease or ill. Just so the Bodhisattva, who courses in perfect wisdom, should become one who plays with the superknowledges, and by playing with them he will purify the Buddha field and mature beings. For a Bodhisattva cannot know the supreme enlightenment without having purified his Buddha field and without having matured beings. And why? A Bodhisattva who is deficient in the limbs of the path cannot win the supreme enlightenment. The limbs of enlightenment. Subhuti. Which are the limbs of the path which a Bodhisattva fulfills before he knows the supreme enlightenment? The Lord. All the wholesome dharmas are the limbs of the path too of the Bodhisattva. Subhuti. What, then, are they? The Lord. From the first thought of enlightenment onwards the perfection of giving is such a wholesome dharma. when it is carried out without false imaginations, and when one does not discriminate with regard to the act of giving, that this is the gift, to him I give, it is I who gives. In fact, one does not imagine any of these three, on account of the emptiness of own being. Through this perfection he saves himself and rescues also others from the flood of samsara. These are the wholesome dharmas which are a bodhisattva's path to the supreme enlightenment. And it is by this path that the past, future, and present bodhisattvas have been saved, are being saved, and will be saved from the flood of samsara, after they have taken with them countless other beings. And so for the other perfections, too. The 18 special buddhadharmas. Whichever paths to enlightenment there may be, these are the wholesome dharmas which a bodhisattva should fulfill so as to reach the knowledge of all modes and thereafter turn the wheel of dharma. End chapter 78.